It's a big video today, a very big video, and the very sad thing is that no one's probably even watching, but there is some very important data to be talking about with regards to the month of September that I don't believe too many people are looking at right now. At least I haven't seen it across my social media tunnel. Anyways, what is the topic of today? Well, it is September, of course, but most people are aware that September is, more or less the worst month for traditional markets and Bitcoin by extension as well. But what people don't talk about is what is important in September, which is quad witching. So that is the topic of today. Other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. Nice little Sunday morning over here. Finally sunny in the background, and we can just go into the chart view. So first things first, what is quad witching? Quad witching is when you have four major expirations. You have expirations for stock options on both, regular stocks, and then also the indices, and then also you have futures, indices, and then just regular futures expirations as well. So it is one of the most important dates, 4 times a year it does happen, and it is coming up on September 15th, I do believe. So with that in mind, what I've done here is I've marked off all of the third Fridays of September throughout the full history of Bitcoin. And of course, why am I saying the third Friday? By the way, that is the quad witching day. It's not necessarily the midpoint of September, but it is a third Friday of September. And so again, why is quad witching even important? Why are these expirations very, very important? Because these are some of the most liquid contracts in traditional markets, and I suppose by Bitcoin extension as well. We do see that there are major decisions based upon these sort of dates by the major fund managers, the people who are actually moving the markets, not the evil fucking market makers, which absolutely drives me insane. It is, of course, the people with the actual money who are, playing directionalities. If you ever want just a very quick way to know if someone's just completely bullshit or not, just if they start talking about market makers talking, in plain direction, just immediately tune off. But that's another topic for another day. The people who actually move the markets, are typically big hedge fund managers, big quant firms, these sort of things do have the power to move the markets, and they typically do have to manage their positions, either roll them or, change them around these major dates. So that is the sort of theory behind why quad witching is so important. Yes, triple witching is important as well, definitely. But the quad witching is just, it takes it another step essentially. So okay, that's a long explanation for why that's important, but September is the last one of the year, of course, coming into Q4, and typically the first couple weeks of September, the first 3 weeks of September leading into that quad witching date, yes, they are typically down. In fact, if we're going to see downside price action, very, 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 very likely happens within the context of that date. Now, where is quad witching for this particular September? It is going to be, I believe, Friday let me just check my my thingy over here. Yeah, Friday the 15th is exactly it. That's going to be the third Friday of this month, meaning that I have my nice little vertical horizontal bar here on basically the Monday that follows. So the next trading day after that expiration. And by the way, it is specifically the last hour of the quad witching where most of that price action does happen. But anyways, for the time leading into that, yes, very likely to be down. In fact, we've gone over the data over here for the September monthlies, and generally speaking, it is a pretty down month for Bitcoin in particular. Only 4 out of 13 total Septembers have had any sort of, remotely positive gain, typically very, very muted within that regard as well. But here's the thing, if we bifurcate September into periods of, leading up to the quad witching and then the quad witching to the end of September, we see something very, very different actually. So I'm going to go over here to this study that I did it goes through the full history of Bitcoin. Didn't sleep too well last night, so my speech is all fucked up. But in this case, we can see a completely different picture actually. Completely fucking different picture, in fact. In fact, for the past 8 Septembers, from the quad witching to the close, were all positive gains. Now, I'd say how many of these were like very, very small? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 were basically like 5% or less, but they were all positive. And then we had a couple of, pretty major gainers, respectively, which were 19% almost and 18.16%. But yeah, all of them were basically positive. And then of course, from the earliest 4, which I can show you down here, we do see I would say one legitimate loss, negative 3.56%. There was a small loss over here of, just under 1%. And then there were two that were basically unchanged. So I kind of put that in like the neutral category, basically. But in that regard, the average return for the winning for the winning ones was about 5.29% if we average them all out. For the losing side, about 2.13 if we just get rid of those very, 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 very small ones that were essentially unchanged, because I don't think that they really belong anywhere, to be honest with you. So what does that all mean? It means that, yes, if we are going to see further downside on Bitcoin, very likely happens in these next couple of weeks here. In fact, let me just see exactly. Yeah, so we already saw the first on Friday. So just, literally 2 more Fridays to go. Yeah, 2 more Fridays to go. 2 more weeks to go, basically. So if there is going to be more downside price action, very likely happens within that spread. But if, let's say, Bitcoin can hold sideways throughout that region, well, the end of September, very likely to print at least moderately positive gains. Now, we did go over on this channel, I think it was on the actual monthly closure. I do think that the upside is very much limited for Bitcoin this month. I think that if Bitcoin were to even see upside, $27,000 is probably the most that we'll see. But to the downside, things, a little bit more interesting in that regard. How far can it go down? Well, of course, we can go ahead and reference this chart over here. It did update last night. This is the 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum signature, and it's still very much heavily pointed to the downside. In fact, the downside pivot went up, meaning that Bitcoin has to now get higher over this next 5-day period in order for this one to flip to the upside, which I think is extremely unlikely. But as you can imagine, for the next 5 days, and then probably 5 days after that, it's going to continue to base on over here in the critical zone. And, that's going to be the time frame to go down. And if statistics are anything to be going by, the average move based upon this particular signature was not 27%. It was actually closer to 40% over the course of a month, which does make me skeptical on this, because if it is over the course of a month or a little bit over a month, well, the end of September, we do know, is a lot more likely to at least be sideways and, have some upside price action. So I'm a little bit more on the side here that, hey, Bitcoin really does have a chance if it does hold sideways over these next 10 days. Well, end of September should at least close sideways, and then we probably do get a try to the upside in October. So the waiting game once again commences, but for right now, yes, indeed, these next couple weeks, I want to be very, very clear about this. If Bitcoin's going to go lower, very likely happens within that time frame, and if we're going to go lower, it could be pretty nasty. I mean, going from this particular pivot right here, 30% down or so, that would put Bitcoin in the lower $20,000 territory. So I do think that's still probably worst case scenario. But for right now, let's see what these new what these next 2 weeks bring, and if Bitcoin fails to really accelerate to the downside, especially without taking out and going lower on a closing basis, that last weekly low, which was, again, let me actually go to the weekly right here, 25.8 or so, 25.7. Well, at that point, you're going to start to see me flip around and start to, I don't think bullish is the right term, but I'll start to be looking at this as likely to try some upside, and that'll be the bias. But for right now, still to the downside. And I suppose that we'll have more to update on that within these next 2 5-day closing periods, which will basically bring us to the end, to the halfway point of this month, thus the quad witching date. And then from there, well, more likely to trade to the upside. So I do think that this is going to be rather interesting. Still plays hand in hand with the long-term stock market analysis that we put out, not this prior Monday, but the Monday before that. I want to do an update on that at some point. There just hasn't really been anything new to update on it because it's still holding true. So I don't really know what to say about it. It's still working. As long as it works, fair enough. But we could see these things play hand in hand, and that would start to, look quite good, let's say, for in October. Anyways, I'll end things right there. Keeping this one nice and short and sweet. As always, we have, not always, but as for right now, we do still have our sale going on. So as always, if you're interested in any one of the programs or products, make sure to watch the promotional videos that explain what to expect within any one of these programs. And I think I'll just leave things right there, and we'll come back at it tomorrow with some fresh eyes. And with that said, I want to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Monday.